Welcome back, ghouls. By the time this bad boy comes out, it likely will have been a bit, but, hey, I have something I want to show you. Something amazing. This is what originally sold me on the hidden gem that is Northern Journey. Not this exact clip per se, but the vibe, the visuals, the music. All of it hooked me instantly, and its grip didn't let up throughout the whole adventure when I found and started it. From minute one, it's bizarre, uncomfortable, strange, and ugly, yet at the same time it's strangely comforting, relaxing, and sincerely beautiful. If I had a sales pitch for you right out of the gate, it's this. Northern Journey is one of, if not flat out, my favorite game of 2021, which should say a lot considering we just got the sequel to Deus Ex that I've pretty much always wanted, with Cruelty Squad releasing in this very same year. Which, by the way, yes, at some point I will talk about this game. Thank you very much. It fucking rips, dude. It's got fishing and an organ stock trading market in it. Now that's video games. Northern Journey is admittedly much more simple than that. Its focus is much more, well, focused, you could say. Its field of vision is restricted to what is a relatively straightforward adventures with plenty of twists and turns and fun views along the way. The focus is by far based more in the vibe of things than the actual story going on here, and the actual gameplay, while not super the focus, is oddly incredible, with combat encounters that are genuinely a blast to go through, with all this unending sense of suspense in the air constantly that it just makes you stop and wonder, wait, is this a boomer shooter? Perhaps the greatest secret I've found while playing Northern Journey is the fact that despite what it might seem, despite the vibes and the setting and the feeling of everything, it's actually deep down perhaps the greatest crossover of gameplay types and different genres. Part gothic, part pathologic, part dungeon crawler, and part boomer shooter. Together, these four ingredients create some of the most fuck shit ever that I dig, man. I mean, I really dig it. Just to be clear, this isn't a joke or anything. This game has some of the most incredibly satisfying combat you can imagine due to the sheer amount of difficulty and timing required for a lot of these encounters. Your weapons, even at their absolute fastest and best, are still slow as hell, so you just kinda have to make every shot count and calculate for the lead time needed to land even a simple arrow on an enemy. It helps create this feeling in almost every encounter that you're just barely holding on, just barely scraping by through every fight, despite a lot of the time having a pretty plentiful amount of supplies and health in the battlefield. The sheer amount of weapons in your arsenal is also pretty surprising, even having a super weapon equivalent later on that you can unlock with enough extra health pickups made along the journey. The variety is honestly perhaps the most surprising thing out of the gate. Almost all of these weapons manage to feel different to such a degree that they each become like a second nature that you need to learn. The slingshot, for instance, the first weapon that you get, takes 3 rotations to shoot at max power, for instance. The bow requires you to hold the aim button so you can actually deal full damage with it and aim accurately. Over time, these things become sort of like a second nature, but it definitely took a little bit to get used to it in every one of these cases. All of these weapons somehow manage to either shoot slightly differently, shoot slower, reload slower, and because of this, they all feel pretty adequately different, which is pretty good for a shooter like this. It helps to make the game feel like it's not getting boring at any point, and even when it starts to, it throws a unique, completely new weapon that is not part of your normal arsenal at you for certain boss fights later on. Sooner or later, you get used to all of these, and eventually for me, this slingshot became like a second nature where I timed every shot exactly on the 3rd rotation to fuck up some dipshit spiders in the woods. Take that, nature. Our journey begins with our boat getting shot with an arrow that causes it to capsize, leading us to quickly hopping aboard shore and beginning the first of what would be our many trials and tribulations to escape this place. As we ascend the land we now find ourselves on, we meet a strange flute player who we find out is also the guy that shot our boat because he needed some help getting back a few items that were stolen from him. You little shit. Without much other choice, you follow his request and proceed through a small town by the name of Deadwell. This is a place crawling with all kind of weirdos, rejects, and lost souls. My kind of place, really. It's got a real homey feeling to it, you know? This place serves as sort of a hub area throughout the game where multiple areas can lead back through one shortcut or another that you find along the way, gradually opening up more and more over the course of the game. We spend time getting to meet the locals, all of which are weird, and none of them really offer us anything, but they're charming in a weird kind of charming way, you know? I don't know, they're all just kinda neat, I guess. Weird, but like, weird. Good vibes, you know? Except for the demon in the cage, that shit nearly made me piss myself. Little bitch-ass, lame-ass, spooky demon-ass bitch, I'll get you back for that, I'll fuck you up, I'll make sure they never find you. After we meet our little cast of oddities, we head to the village gate and get told what to do next, which is go visit a nearby inventor for an appropriate weapon before we head into the wilds. After all, the journey ahead will be fraught with danger and we definitely need to arm ourselves. We find him in whatever this is. Honestly, it seems like a pretty dog shit place to live, dude, and, I'm not one to talk, really. I live in a clown basement, but, you do you, I guess. Feel yourself, live your truth. If you want to fall off the cliff one day when one of these ropes snaps, then, well, that's the life you chose. With that taken care of, we introduce ourselves to this inventor, and he tells us to fuck off after giving us the nastiest, grossest, oldest stinky slingshot he can find and sending us on our way into the deadly, dangerous surrounding wilds of the land. Our only objective being to travel to a location provided by our mysterious employer and collect a series of important shields that will need to open a gate leading further north. The eventual goal here is to gather something he calls dimensional violators, which, not sure what the hell that is, but sure, okay, can do. First, however, there's a trip we need to make before we can reach our destination. A tutorial area of sorts to set the mood. A creepy, dark, horrible place simply called The forest path is the first real hurdle before us on the journey, being filled with a sense of dread right out of the gate. The encroaching forest all around nearly swallowing you whole in the process. Also, there's spiders. A lot of spiders. I hate these things, dude. I don't even hate spiders in real life that much, but this game made me hate them. Northern Journey is packed to the brim with these guys. There's multiple gaggles of them within all of it that are each of different flavors, each significantly more horrific than the last. Thankfully, these guys are easy, and once we beat them back and continue down the path, it makes itself clear that this is merely a tutorial before things open up. There's also these rock things that do something. I didn't let them get near me. I hate moving statues in stone. I just think it's real creepy for some reason. After we get through the forest, it opens up, and finally, we arrive in dark, wet, rainy, Ravenfen is a cold and unfeeling marshland filled with these horrible mosquitoes that are just so large. But, hey, don't worry, of these locations, this is considered nice in relation. I'd settle down here. I'd buy a house here for a reasonable price compared to what the hell is going on in the rest of the world here. The vibes here are just a plus, though. That music, when that hit, man, I knew I was gonna love this game. That paired with the depressing rain, the muddy visuals, it leaves a hell of an impression as the first of a few major areas in the game. It also teaches us that enemies don't respawn, and instead, with each one we defeat, the safer the area becomes. For the most part. It can't stop me from throwing myself off a cliff and breaking my neck on accident, which it happened a lot more than I want to admit. Still, the unending rain and this oppressive music give a real feeling for this living, breathing environment, further shown to us as the player as we explore and find weapons buried in tombs, and this little motley crew of traveling musicians without a show to perform and with no shelter in sight. They just kinda chill out here all sad in the rain. It's got vibes for days, captures part of a much grander whole, and eventually leads up to being one of the greatest experiences I've had. However, the location itself doesn't actually have a ton going on. It just helps establish the gameplay that is going to be the loop going forward. Here, we're mostly just exploring to find weapons and a key to the next location we need to go to. That location is where we'll be for a while when things start to fully open up. So this is, in a way, an extension of that forest path tutorial, the sort of first game area where it really lets you go wild. Eventually, however, after all the hopping, shooting, vibing, and thriving, you unlock a cool new pathway, finding a hidden switch that opens a secret door on this here cliff that leads you up to a little place called Green Slit is notably more beautiful right from the gate, dropping much of the dreary and depressing muck and rain for these breathtaking views, honestly, as you climb across different areas, platform across rickety wooden planks, and investigate ruins of some long-since lost civilization. Don't be mistaken, though. Despite the beauty found here, this place is no safer than any other, with the harsh sting of nature quickly making itself known. Here we have one goal: search through all the beaten down and broken old ruins for 5 shields that we need to progress on our journey. Yet another key to unlock a door to help us progress. This time it teaches us about collecting items. They're littered around the map with a bunch of these lovely ass bugs who I totally didn't miss like 20 times trying to hit. I swear, I'm a real gamer, guys, I promise. We do what we can to gather the shields, but at the end of it, we're only able to find 3. From here, we have 2 options, because the other items we found along the way are a broken headlamp, of which we need 2 to create a fully functioning one, and a crank that we need for an elevator back in Deadwell. Well, that cave looks foreboding and is just called the Troll Hole. So, for now, I think we're just going to head back to Deadwell to follow up that lead and come face to face with... Alright, so hear me out for a second. I didn't exactly explain this in depth when I was first going over the town. I sort of skipped over this part until now because, well, it just made more sense that way. Back in Deadwell, these 2 ladies inhabit a place together in town and are very clearly up to some shit. The sheriff already has the spawn of Satan to deal with in his holding cell, so in the meantime we'll have to do something about that. You see, they have a door we need to get through and, well, they refuse to unlock it. So, in lieu of asking nicely, we just have to take what we want. With that newfound crank we have, we're able to finally access a lift we previously couldn't do anything with. This allows us to head down to another part of Deadwell, and what is that? This fight is a pain in the ass because the range of this thing's attack and the lack of ammo I had at the time. A word of warning. Stock the hell up before this, or you're in for a bad time. Over and over and over and over and over and over. But eventually you'll manage to overcome the phantom virus over here, and from there we get a key to the witch's house. Well, well, well. Would you look at that? So we head back up, head over, and get cussed at by the old witch again, who basically calls us a gay pussy, and then head on through. Only she's just standing there, menacingly. Oh, well, that solves it. From here, it's easy enough to hop down and eventually make our way towards a shield hidden back here. One down, one to go. Unfortunately, the trip back to town is a little less convenient with, well, this appearing. Now, we get to deal with Mom, or the grandma, or whoever that old lady that also inhabited the house was. For all I know, they could have been lovers, and that'd be fine. The problem is, though, after that last fight, I'm pretty understocked, so this was a little bit of a challenge. I had to utilize my slingshot a lot more than I wanted at the time, when I had much better options, such as a bow that was pretty badass, which we found back in Ravenfen, and a crossbow that shoots at a pretty fast rate, which we found in Greenslit. Between juggling all these weapons, I managed to eventually take out the boss. At first it was hard, but after a while you just kind of have to sort of recognize her patterns. Think of it like a Dark Souls boss. This, after all, really is the Dark Souls of video games. After she flies away, she warns us that she'll face off against us down the road in Sourwood. We don't know what a Sourwood is yet, but it sounds quite unpleasant. But at least now we have something to look forward to there. For us, it's now time to hit the road and get back to Greenslit. You see, while traveling, we managed to find all the parts we need for a headlamp, which means it's time to cave dive in. Troll Hole is a complete departure from the last two levels, as it sheds their open, beautiful vistas and instead takes place inside a dank, dark, and deep cavern, packed to the brim with all manner of beastly things. The tone, while oppressive in the other stages, here feels almost doubly so, with enough tension to cut like a knife through the fog. And if that doesn't sound like a blast, don't worry, it's also packed to the brim with enemies that'll make you miss the spiders from before. The first of the few major enemies we meet is this dude, a little green summoning goblin who brings on hordes of enemies that only continue to multiply as long as he stays alive, though a well-placed arrow with the bow will take care of that pretty quickly. Unfortunately, I didn't recognize this at first, so I was wondering why I kept killing things and they kept rapidly growing so fast that I couldn't do anything, eventually getting overwhelmed and dying multiple times before I realized, hey, that little dude there might be doing something. Along with that, though, however, is a foe that, it's a squid monster of some type. You know, the usual type of these things you expect in caves called the Troll Hole. This little bastard man might single-handedly be responsible for more of my deaths than any actual boss in the game, and you can't even fight it. It straight up doesn't even take any damage from any weapons, so instead, whenever it shows up, you have to platform and run the hell away. This is all well and good until you slip 1 or 40 times depending on your skill level, and if the AI decides to bat you away at random until you eventually get to the next section. I need to take a moment here to make you, understand this section. This section might be the only part of the game I disliked, and if you do play it, I'm warning you, it's pretty rough for 5 minutes there, and you might get a little bit upset. Then again, you might be better at platforming than me, but my problem was more based on the fact that no matter what I did, I would get randomly swatted at. First, you have to platform through all this section, and then after that, you can't quick save here, so you're unable to save your game like you can in almost every other area that doesn't have an enemy, and so you have to go to the next section in which you use this bait to lure this beast out. Now, that's all well and good, and that would be pretty interesting if it worked. But unfortunately, it didn't pay very much attention to the bait when I threw it, and no matter how much I would wait, or how much I would throw, or how well I would do it, it just kept attacking me the moment I got close. Now, I'm sure I'm doing something wrong here. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I missed some documentation or some note that told me how to use this thing, but, this just kind of felt a little unfair. To top it all off, once you get past this second section, you still can't save, and there is a third section afterwards in which you have to fight not only those goblin dudes, but then a bunch of spiders in the next room. It's such a ridiculously overpowered whole section of gameplay that really just resulted in me dying a lot and being frustrated, and I get it, it's probably my fault, but god damn, man. Throughout this entire rant, I've been playing my many attempts at 200% speed. I've failed a lot of times off camera as well. So trust me, if you're stupid like me and have my brain worms, this might enrage you just a tiny bit, but it's worth it, I promise. Once you do finally get past Squid Boy the Cheek Smasher over here, however, you are rewarded with a new weapon, a rapid-fire crossbow of sorts. Well, kind of rapid-fire. It ain't no Gatling, but it's definitely faster than most weapons in the game. That's still pretty slow, though. And according to this, it even says that the squid runs away from it when it's fired at. Alright, let's go ahead and try that out. Take that, you asshole! God damn it! Yeah, even with this weapon that it supposedly is weak against, it still gets my ass and seems to not work as intended. This whole section, for me, had issues, man. It really never felt like it was working as intended, which is a little bit of a shame because if not for the issues, I really dig the hell out of this whole area and the following section. These creepy, crawly underground settings kick ass in every way, and the mostly closed-off environments are such a nice change of pace, so it serves as a great, refreshing bit of gameplay when you hit them. They're normally a lot more creepy, a lot more cramped, and you have to change things up just a little bit because you can no longer depend just on strafing, which, I did a lot. Though, between the other side and us, a boss fight stands in our way with the door's guardians, which we make short work of. 5 attempts later. But after that, we finally, after all this hard work, get to the other side and cross into Knockpond is a horrible place, the kind of horrible place you hear about in fairy tales, the kind of place you get told to stay away from by any means necessary. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of avoiding it, meaning it's time to roll up our pants and get knee-deep into the shit. The first thing you'll probably notice is the very large mosquitoes that litter the land. You might also take a wrong turn and notice the moose rushing towards you. Avoid that, or don't. Your choice, really. Once you do finally deal with them, though, you will find they guard a shack, though we don't have the key for it, so we'll need to come back later. Now we hit F5 to save, because this game doesn't autosave, and I'm pretty sure it's been 30 minutes, and then head forward, into the swamp. Now is about where we find out the trick of the swamp. This creature in the middle that tries to drag you down into the dark waters it inhabits. It's a good old-fashioned siren-like thing, whatever the Norwegian version of that is, or Icelandic version? I'm unsure where this game is actually supposed to be set. All I know is it looks very much like that region. Look, all I know is whenever I get near the thing, it starts to grow pretty dark, and it gets real hard to avoid wanting to dunk your head into the water, so, I try to put as much room between it and me as possible. Generally, when things have that sort of effect on me, I try to avoid them, lest I let the voices take control again. We came here to get into Sourwood, the home of the witches we keep seeing, and so all we gotta do is find a way in. It should be simple enough. Should be. Sadly, the only entrance into Sourwood is blocked by a sort of magical spell which can only be unlocked by finding 2 wooden eyes and popping them into this very disturbing looking statue found in a deep, dark crevice off to the side. What's up, gamer ghouls? It's me, future Demenza, and I hope you pardon the interruption of myself. I know the mic quality probably sounds vastly different, and to be honest, it's 100% caused by the fact that my recording setup is a real pain in the ass to set up. I'll go ahead and picture it here. Wonderful, ain't it? A real piece of architecture, if you ask me. Real top-grade professional quality work right here. Anyway, I just wanted to mention something here that I forgot while recording the voice lines, and that is I constructed something called the bear crossbow. You find it by searching for 2 different parts of it located across Knockpond, and once you get it, it's a weapon that is pretty solid and is presumably made to kill bears, as the name implies. That's it, really. I just wanted to add that before you get to the next section because I realized I just had a random crazy quote of me describing the weapon without saying its name once or telling you where I got it. Anyway, hopefully you don't mind the fact that the audio sounds like ass compared to the rest of everything. Then again, it might just all sound all sorts of wishy-washy, so, I don't know. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Back to the show, folks. This bow hits hard, though it does have a very, very long reload, which is the downside. It's a good weapon to pull out in crutch during a boss fight or a particularly difficult encounter in which you just want to immediately kill an enemy. It's sort of a single-shot weapon that is able to murk most things with ease and is, in general, pretty handy to have on you. We'll definitely need it for the path later on, but unfortunately there isn't much else to interact with here yet, and as we exit this little catacomb where we found the weird statue, we receive the news from a messenger dog that the strength of 9 men is now within our grasp. Okay. Yeah, I understand. So you head back into Slit and ride around for a little bit on a few of these zip lines, picking up items and health pickups and fighting a few remaining enemies that exist. Eventually, after all this exploring, we find a zip line that takes us to a bandit headquarters located in the middle of this wooded area. It's a secluded place that you can only reach via zip line, and as such, there really is no way back. You can only go forward. Moving on ahead, you find that this fortress is actually guarded by, well, 1, these ranged enemies that throw these boulders at you that do quite a lot of damage, by the way, and there are also quite a lot of enemies that will rush out of the keep and into the fighting arena. The only way of escape is blocked off behind you, and well, you're forced to fight through this entire horde of enemies before progressing. I'm not gonna lie, this was a pretty rough fight. At least once or twice I ran out of ammo and and just simply couldn't do the damage I needed to before getting hit by either one of these enemies or by one of the ranged attacks, because they do quite a lot of damage. You kind of have to keep moving throughout this entire fight, and even stopping for a second is a pretty big risk. It's here that I also want to mention, I just really like how people are animated in this game. They don't really get these cool in-depth animations, they just kind of get stretched and tweaked around so they kind of look like they're doing something vaguely related to the action they're taking. So whenever you get lunged at, for instance, people just sort of extend. It's very interesting. But eventually, after we clear the fight and clear out all the enemies that exist, we climb up the keep and find our way up to a tower where, at some point along the way, I honestly can't tell you where. Oh wait, actually I think I found it in a snake pit. But eventually I found a key somewhere along the way, which now I know belongs to this door. And unlocking it, we enter into yet another deep, dark, pretty spooky looking cave, which I'm sure is gonna be an absolute blast. But before we do that, it's time for a commercial break.
This is Rufus Thomas with a brand new dance. I'm talking about the bullseye. Slit malt liquor bullseye. Y'all ready? Here we go. Raise your right leg, then you put it down. Move your left leg forward and your body too. Do what comes natural when the bull's after you. Now you move your head from side to side. Get slit small liquor and do the bullseye. Yeah, yeah. Look out for the bull. Slit small liquor bull. Nobody makes small liquor like slit. Nobody makes small liquor like slits. Nobody.
And now, back to the show. From the moment you enter Trilobite Tomb, there's this intense feeling of something being wrong. Further being reinforced by these incredibly discomforting looking statues that greet you at the door. These things look haunted as shit. This is some like straight up horror game stuff. If you thought the spider count was bad, guess again. This cave is coated head to toe in them with these great white webs coating nearly every wall you come across. It creates this really beautiful environment that still has that claustrophobic feeling of the cave from before, while giving it a unique twist that makes it stand out completely on its own. It feels as if from the statues at the front to the very end of the structure itself, it's steeped in this sort of thick and oppressive atmosphere that nearly drives you crazy with anticipations before things start popping off. Well, I say popping off, but it's more like a few stray spiders that try to lunge out at you. But aside from that, it's surprisingly mostly pleasant. Aside from all the cobwebs and creepy statues, that is. You know, overall, it's not that bad of a cave. Like an 8 out of 10 cave, I think. I'd probably get rid of some of the statues if I was to make it my main place of inhabitants, but you know, all in all, pretty okay. But most of all, it allows us to get the strength we need to lift a boulder back in Deadwell, so that means it's time for some backtracking. But first, we need to reach the other end of the cave and bumble out to enter Fall Crush. On the other end of the Trilobite tomb lies a wonderful sight. A sight for sore eyes, really. A gorgeous outlook you find yourself at after escaping whatever lies in the cursed depths of that cave behind us. This change of scenery went from a cramped, damp cave to a wide open new area called Fall Crush. And, after looking around, we find our next objective. It's time to climb this entire cliffside and keep moving forward. What you'll first notice here after just a bit of walking around is that this is one of the rare areas where things don't try to murderize you around every corner. Instead, Fall Crush is like a nice pleasant hike up a mountain after a cave filled with more spiders. It's almost enough to make you forget just how flavor blasted the rest of the world outside this area is. Almost, but not quite. As we climb up this tower, we take a few zip lines across the caverns back and forth, and we also climb up a few ropes and, in general, just continue to move up the mountain until eventually we get to take a zip line back to Deadwell and lift a rock near the church that we need in order to find one of those wooden eyeballs. So, without further ado, we head back and... man, this game is just gorgeous. I mean, it's something special. I don't know exactly how the hell he did it, but according to dev interviews, he took pictures of pretty much every single texture in the game personally so that he could use them. It creates this really weird, almost painterly-like look to the entire game, and I don't know, I just dig the whole art style. It just really works on me for some reason. Like, I mentioned it before at the start, but like, goddamn, man, just riding this long zip line on over really makes it sink in more as you get a great view of the whole area you just trekked across. Good stuff right here, man. On the other end of the zip line, we get back to Deadwell to see things in, well, pretty much the same condition. There used to be a dog here, but I think it got eaten. We beeline it over to the church where we lift up a rock we need, and in the process we're greeted to a boss fight of the husk of the priest that used to inhabit the church. It's an easy enough fight as long as you keep your distance, and I found the bow to be particularly pretty helpful here. While the boss fight isn't particularly difficult, it does definitely have a nice atmosphere, and the weird, creepy look on this dude's face as he rushes towards you with his hands outstretched makes you definitely want to avoid being caught. Once we're done cleaning up and mopping the floor with this schmuck, however, we grab a key and find the first wooden eye we need at the top of a tower, which means we're one step closer to the end of our adventure. Next on the list is to get rid of that doppelganger that is currently inhabiting the church to get the other eye. And luckily, the flute player knows just the thing. A sheet of music that banishes doppelgangers back to their dimension. Pretty nifty in this exact situation. Unfortunately, it's also at the bottom of Knockpond, which means it's time we get to go diving, and it's here where I finally have to confess something to you. I have a pretty extreme fear of deep water. Not of drowning, to be clear. That's whatever. I mean, it sucks, but still. Instead, there's this constant, deep, lurking, consistent fear of deep water in the open ocean because of what lies within it that honestly haunts me. These massive underwater creatures that could kill us on accident, and the untold horrors of what lies deep down there really get to me for some reason or another. Who knows why? I just sort of know that if I go down that deep, I'm not coming back. Anyway, so you get thrown into the goddamn lake after talking to the inventor, and it's horrifying. It's a horror game. It's just a straight up horror game for like 5 minutes. This random 5-ass span of game time felt to me like 30 minutes of unflinching horror. I didn't expect this to happen, and in general I avoid most games that take place underwater because they actually do truly frighten me to a degree that is quite hard to deal with, and this one just kinda snuck it on in there, and you know what? It was pretty goddamn good. Though I do wish the dev hadn't gone out of his way to make it the most horrifying, worst location on Earth. It'd be one thing to just be going diving, but no, that wasn't enough. The dev had to dot these horrific things down here that are all trying to reach towards you while you're moving in the water, and that thing that we only saw the top of above that kept trying to bring us into the water, we now get to see its full body, and it is, well, it's not enjoyable, to say the least. During this time, we also don't have any of our weapons, with the only ability to defend ourselves being a sort of flash we can shoot at the creature trying to clap our cheeks. So we do that and eventually manage to bumble our way towards the note sheet and get the hell out of Dodge. We can't really play the thing, but we do know a band that can, and with a little work, we put together a whole party. A real rootin' tootin' good time, you know? This here's a real slammer, a hoedown if I've ever seen one. I mean, just look at all these little goofy dudes dancing. Man, this is some good animation right here. I would argue this is the entire reason as to why video games as an art form was created. This is the good stuff. Mamma mia, that's a good pizza pie. Well, it doesn't kill the doppelganger, it does cause him to get a real rhythm going. And before he breaks out into full dance, he flees, but not before dropping the eye that we need to enter. Ladies and gentlemen, we've officially entered the puke forest that is Sourwood, a place twisted and rotten to the very core, and the home of these wacky witches that we keep hearing all about. We've come in search of something called a dimensional violator, and to finish our business with the doppelganger that headbanged his way to freedom. Arriving was the easy part, however, as Sourwood is no small swamp, but a pretty sizable chunk of the map with interweaving pathways and shortcuts to unlock. It's a big nut to crack, but we're gonna try and choke it down anyway. Take a swig of your dew and press on, because there's a whole lot of swamp for us to check out, and at least 2 different bosses that we know of that want to clap our cheeks, assumedly waiting for us, and we sure as hell won't let that stop us. In one of the hardest blurbs of dialogue in the entire game, the flute player describes the very ground as tainted and rotting away beneath us, warning us of creatures within the fog that want our blood and of a witch here that we'll need to fight in some swamp maze. My 2 favorite things mixed into one. Goody! Before we can get there, though, we first need to find 3 items called Torment Screws. That name goes so goddamn hard for an item that is basically a glorified key for the next boss fight that we have to insert into what seems to be a living statue that is very clearly not having a good time in this process. As we search through these woods, we also at the same time progress through the swamp, and at some point along the way, run into the very same witch we fought off earlier in Deadwell by ringing a bell. Well, we more so face her underlings or offspring or whatever these are supposed to be that she creates. It's a fine fight as long as you know how to circle strafe and you have the old reliable bow on hand. A few well-placed bare crossbow bolts don't hurt things too much either, and we managed to take care of it without too many issues. Only a few deaths. And we unlock a way forward in the process. The other witch, meanwhile, continues to run away, and we get access now to a bunch of caves that we can use to further progress and unlock some shortcuts. We unlock a shortcut that leads us back to the entrance, as well as a shortcut that leads us all the way back to Slit. So now we have the ability to go and backtrack and gather up items if we need to. Once we progress forward, we also find the remainder of these torment screws, which means now we are finally allowed to progress forward past this statue, which, again, it seems very uncomfortable. I mean, if it's a living statue, that's one thing, but why did you have to make it feel pain, man? That's kind of fucked up, you know? And in the process of using these keys, the statue completely explodes. R.I.P., my guy. You were just doing your job, and I'm sorry it had to be this way. But finally, it is time for our battle, our hopefully final battle, with the Witch of Deadwell. Only, the normal weapon strat of using the bow and the bear crossbow won't work. Instead, it turns out the only thing that can actually hurt the witch is this special weapon, a sort of magic goat staff thing. At the same time, we also need to manage platforming on this maze of rotten wooden planks while dodging attacks and trying to land hits on an enemy that moves around so quickly. A real 1-2 punch of fuck shit that made me want to rip my hair out, as I kept getting the boss to about half health before throwing myself into the water and dying instantly again and again and again. Man, I wish I was good at video games, because the sound that happens every time you die, I think it might be making me deaf in one ear. After we finish with this fight, and finally manage to defeat the thing, or at least make it run away one more time, we're greeted by another witch sitting on a raft, offering to take us across the water and into another cave. I guess the dev just really likes caves, because there's quite a lot of them here, and this is not the last. You know, this came up not too long ago in this very same level, actually. A random NPC offers to give you a ride only to unveil it's a trap and then tries to kill you. Well, I'm sure this time it will be different. It actually worked out really well. Well, I guess I'm sorry for making judgments. Maybe I shouldn't judge all witches off the actions of a few. Anyway, time to keep moving forward. It's time to go into the Dark Throat, baby. Through the twisted land of Sourwood lies a cavern fitting of the name Dark Throat. Accessible only by a small raft paddled by one of the witches of the swamp, Dark Throat is a place that is home to genuinely one of the most breathtaking views in the whole game. This giant swirling vortex of water near the center of the cave. It's also home to my least favorite enemies, whatever the hell these are. It's not that they're annoying to fight or anything, they're pretty easily killed, and a well-placed shot takes care of things pretty much instantly. I just hate how they look and move, all weird and stretchy. It just, I don't know, man, I don't like it. To travel through this place and get to the next location, we need to traverse into the vortex with the help of a breathing device and a small hole low to the water. After that, we end up below this whole whirlpool and are at this great grand waterfall that we then have to turn away from and take a little side path as we continue down into this deep, dank cave. The sight here is particularly beautiful to me, though all the other caves in this game really do have their own artistic style behind them. Each of them feels dark and foreboding in their own unique way, and it all really stands out. All of this is topped off with one of the most interesting weapons we get yet after a bit of platforming. We bring this rod to a well and hoist it down until pulling it back up. And then what we get is something called the Snake Staff. This thing saps the health of any target it hits, the only downside being the fact that if you miss, the thing attacks the closest target, you. After we fight our way through the cavern and construct the weapon, we get pulled up by our friend from another well. The good old flute player is the one pulling us up, and he tells us to keep going, and that before we can reach our next location, we first need to kill the last thing blocking our way. The old witch. It turns out she's still alive. So, with that said, we crack our knuckles and get in there. It's time to get it on, gamers. And another one down. We're making great progress now. Real good stuff. And with no way back, it feels best to just keep on pushing forward into another nice, relaxing, dank old swamp called Maribog. Is a weird place, a bog in the middle of this alien swampland with only a single structure, a small house nestled between these two rocky formations on both sides. On the outside, it looks plain and unassuming, almost welcoming despite its odd location, almost welcoming enough to make you miss the fact that this whole place is a trap. However, we know the trick. We were warned about it by the flute player as we entered this place and given a warden to guard against it. So knowing this place is all some Venus flytrap for some sort of interdimensional hell creature, we do the reasonable thing and assume the position. Except when it leans in to claim its prize, us, we give it the old rune treatment and make it flee in terror. From here, we venture out into the brave unknown and have to make our way through a swampy maze while dodging attacks from the thing. Conventional weapons are useless, so the only thing standing between you and death is your rune. It's a pretty tense scene as you fumble through these woods, getting lost on more than a few different occasions if you're me, but also, while you stumble and follow the flames that guide you, there's this consistent white noise and ever-encroaching darkness that only finally ends when we trap this thing back in the portal, or dimensional violator as they're called, that they came from. After which we get a moment of peace. Only for a second, though. After all, our journey isn't finished. It's not even close. So we continue on along another path until we enter. The entire Granite gash is home to all manner of beautiful vistas and bridges that lead up the side of this jagged mountain. It's also packed with just a shit ton of trolls waiting at the ready to turn you into a pincushion just for showing your face with these ballistas. However, one shot from the bear crossbow is more than enough to put them down for good, and there's plenty of ammo littering the land. We fight through these torrents of turrets with one goal in mind. We need to reach the highest point of this mountain in order to take a zip line down to the next area according to our flute-playing employer. And so with that in mind, we fight through these hills and clear out every enemy in sight as we climb a few different towers, bridges, and structures, all in the goal to unlock a rope bridge passage that we take to the top of this area before finally riding a zip line down to an area on the very edge of a border to a different land, a starkly different land. Unlike the swampy, musty feeling places that we've been in, this place is entirely different and honestly almost feels like a whole different planet, you know? It's just sort of blasted by this unending bitter frost that is just a complete 180 to what we've seen since. And with my goal in sight and at this point all my weapons gathered, I push forward into the frost, into the bitter cold, and into the name says it all here. There is nothing of value, in the hypothermia waste. Here, endless freezing winds batter the massive, lifeless landscape, snow and rock being the only thing in sight around you for miles, and beyond that is long abandoned structures that have no inhabitants. There is nothing hospitable here, nothing friendly to life, yet at the same time it's hauntingly beautiful while being opposed to human life. Oh, and also, there's a sick fucking kite here, man. Oh, dude, this is the real shit. This is video games right here. There ain't shit here in this wasteland. It sucks. Life here sucks. But you know what doesn't suck? A sick kite, man. Hell yeah. Video games rule, dude. Despite its somewhat strange controls, you quickly get used to the thing and sail over these beautiful, picturesque landscapes in a rare moment where there aren't any enemies. For this brief moment, one of the few similar moments of quiet throughout the game, you don't have to worry about some beastly thing killing you. Instead, it's just nature itself. However, as quickly as it comes to an end, and unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to our kite. This will be a loss I remember for, well, untold amounts of time. It's a real bummer that I can't just ride this kite all day. But now we stand in front of a wiggling bridge, and it seems to be our only path forward, so with no other place left to go, it's time to venture forth into the fittingly named Through the hypothermia waste and across the winding, blowing bridge, we reach a haunted glacier. Initially a place so dark and isolated it feels more like a void than a physical location. After continuing forward, though, we do find a house seemingly belonging to the strange flute player who's been beside us throughout all these adventures. He taunts us with the warmth of the house before sending us back into the blistering cold to do our job. God damn it, what an asshole. The doppelganger we've been chasing seems to still be here, and we've got some unfinished business with the guy. The only thing standing between him and us is a few spooky ghosts, which, yeah, alright, we've faced off against worse. These can't be that bad. Let's go ahead and give it a... Oh, okay, maybe not. Maybe the ghost skeletons will kick my ass a few times first. Yeah, that's fine too. Now that I'm ready for it, let's do this right. You see, these black ghosts can't actually be damaged. Instead, they deal damage to you and you simply have to dodge them. However, there are also some black ghosts that just sorta watch you, which adds this interesting atmosphere in which you're always being watched by these little dudes, despite them not really being hostile. No, the only ghosts that you can kill in these caves are these white ones, which do take damage from even regular weaponry. Once we finish this first encounter, we keep moving on deeper, each door in the cave being locked behind playing the flute, which is a cool little mechanic. You have to get the right key shifts in order to unlock a gate, so it's a pretty nice little change of pace here. Overall, though, the Glacier is a pretty sick setting. The sound of the blistering winds is consistent. The horror of having these ghosts rush at you from the darkness that surrounded you. These other dudes that just watch you, climbing all around in these glaciers. It's just got this vibe, you know? It's just a really cool place. I like this design a whole lot, and I really like the darkness opposed to the brightness of the snow. Oh, plus there's, whatever the hell this is. I don't actually know what happens when it damages you. You see, it's far too scary looking to have ever let myself be caught by it, but, I'm gonna assume it's probably not the best thing. But once we push past it and find the correct location, we do eventually meet our flute-playing friend again. Is friend even the right word to describe this dude? I now realize that like every interaction we have with him has just been him being a shithead to us. So, I don't really know if he counts as a friend. It kinda seems like he trapped us on this island to make us do things for him for no real reason. But before we can think too much about that, we have a doppelganger to kill, and he hands us a special weapon for it, this lightning spear. Well, that seems pretty handy. This here is a really good fight, and one of the few times I had to get real sweaty in this, because god damn it, man, this doppelganger is only able to be hit with this one certain type of weapon, and then on top of that, all around you, the arena is littered with these little pools of water that just instantly kill you, as well as having two sides of the cave which you can accidentally throw yourself off of while hopping and jumping all around. I had to do this fight over a few times because of all this water here, and just to be clear, I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing. I mean, it's interesting in the way it does make you manage knowing the level around you, but also, yeah, I suck. I can't really defend it, man. You know, I caravaned off this thing a few times, but at the end of the day, I got the fight done, and really, that's all that matters. No matter how I had to cheese it out, you know? At the end of the fight, we lock the doppelganger inside another one of these dimensional violators before deactivating it, after which we find our way back to the little home filled with warmth through another passage, back to our flute player, who basically calls us a little bitch and sends us on our way to the next location, telling us it's time to return to Deadwell for the final leg of our journey. It's time to go back to the church at the beginning, a place that up till now I really haven't described. A now cursed place with this constant beating on a door that's locked. You know, everybody calls this place creepy, but it's got a real homey feeling, you know? We unlock this door and find out that nobody is actually behind it, and continue down into what seems to be a whole-ass underground system of caves that lie under the church and beyond a door sealed by some sort of magic, which we can only unlock by chanting words off of a book nearby. It sounds particularly demonic as we do so, and eventually we find a scuba suit as well and have to go swimming. As we keep progressing down into the cave, though, we find out that much of it lies submerged in water, so you know what that means. It's time to don on the scuba suit and get swimming. We have to get through this to find out where the doppelganger came from still. It'd be all well and good if that were it, but instead somebody decided to personally attack me and put enemies underwater, almost giving me another panic attack in the process of collecting runes I need to unlock doors blocking our way. After some digging around and killing these things, whatever the hell they are, I find pretty much all of them, but in the process I ran out of ammo right before the last area, and this underwater catapult that I have became, useless, and there's a lot of things in there. I guess I'll just go for it. Yeah, that went great. Trust me, I'm a trustable guy. Eventually we collect all the runes to unlock the door in our way, and we find a cave filled with water yet again, though this time there aren't any enemies. After a quick little swim, we come up the other side from a natural geyser, and are surrounded by creepy looking statues again. This game loves creepy looking statues, and I dig it, man. Anyway, eventually we collect these runes and unlock the door and find a well leading us to our next location, along with a locked cell featuring the game's super weapon that I didn't get, at least in my first playthrough. Okay, yeah, it's pretty cool. That other schmuck was really missing out. After that, it's time to jump in the big pit, so no use holding it off anymore. After all, this is it, the final location, the place of our final showdown, the end of our northern journey, all of which is located in a fittingly named last location simply called This is it, gang. The end of the road. The final area. The last hurrah. It consists of 3 boss fights with the Pet Worm, a interdimensional creature that befriended a village idiot, and its rider. The village idiot now turned crazy. Well, I guess he was always crazy, huh? Well, that's a shame. This was the one guy in town I actually liked. He strangely enough seemed to have his head on straightest. These 2 are the only things standing between us and our freedom from this land. The abyss itself is very much akin to hell itself, its surface burnt to ash and surrounded by rivers of lava that is unable to foster any life at all, at least not very easily. The life we do find that now inhabits the surface is particularly deadly, mostly being these demons we find along the way and these tentacle things. When we arrive, the first sight we get is this boss fight, a formidable one indeed. This fight also has a fucking certified banger, baby. Listen to this theme. That's a banger right there, a classic. Great music right there, dude. With a few well-placed shots and a lot of circle strafing, we win the day quickly and the Worm Rider retreats. It won't be the last time we see him here, and it's by far the easiest fight in these last 3. Heading out into the lava-burnt surface, we work our way gradually forwards past waves of these demon girl things and these tentacles, until we eventually take a few lifts and arrive at boss fight number 2. This thin, incredibly easy to fall off of area in which we have a ranged battle with the Worm Rider. Now, again, I admit I'm an idiot, so I died probably more than I should have. About 10 times before I realized the ideal strat. Why run when you can just stand still and take pot shots? So that's what I did. Instead of running around like an idiot and slipping off the platform time and time again, like this is Mario Sunshine or something, I just stood my place and lo and behold, I didn't toss myself head first off the ledge. Who'd have thunk it, really? Thus, with the second phase defeated, the intimidating skull gate behind us opens and welcomes us inside, where we can find the Worm Rider waiting before he retreats into another portal. We follow and end up on a changeling island, assumingly where our doppelganger came from and the dimension that the worm he's riding seems to inhabit. Here, we have to defend against wave after wave of enemies native to this land, while also charging a spell designed to make the Dimensional Violator explode, all while the Worm Rider keeps trying to steal the thing. We have to let it charge for a certain amount of time first, so we have to basically hold things down until it does so. And at first, it doesn't seem so bad. At first. You know, I had this all under control, and then it just sort of slipped from me, okay? I don't really know how. It happens to the best of us, though. We can't all be MLG pro gamers, you know? Finally, after all this, we let the guy take the Dimensional Violator and descend a nearby tower to prepare for our final fight, our last showdown. Another ranged battle against the Worm Rider, but this time with fire to really spice things up. Another situation here where I kept dying over and over again until I stopped, listened, and started to understand mechanics. You'll see this as a recurring theme in most games because I have an inability to follow directions or any guidance by the developer. I should have really stopped and think about things more before running in blindly, but I didn't learn my lesson over the entire course of this 12-hour game, and I don't intend to learn it now. We are far too into this video for me to learn a lesson now, and I can't have that change. After a while, though, I did begin to notice that the walls around me stopped the fire damage that almost instantly obliterated my health bar because I was very bad at finding items earlier on. Once I had realized that, the rest was really just a matter of waiting in the right spot and taking my shot where I can. With our final blow, we finally kill the Worm Rider and are shortly after set free, ending where we started as we paddle along the lake towards our original goal of... I'm not actually sure anymore. Where do I go from here? And so we make it to the end of our journey, our northern journey, if you will. That was a good joke. And what a journey it was, huh? It's got spooks of all manner, these sweet-ass environments that are genuinely breathtaking. I mean, how can you not look at some of this and just not be in awe? Not to mention the music. Oh man, the music. Throughout this entire video, I have only used music from the game while I was talking about it. Those sick tunes in the background, all from this game, baby. All from this single developer, as far as I'm aware of. Now that's some sick shit. The most impressive thing of all though, well, not only did this one dude make this game by himself, but it was also the first time he'd ever made a game at all. What's perhaps the most stunning thing about this whole situation, given the information, is remarkably how well put together this thing actually is. It's smooth. Real smooth. It feels responsive and great to play. Nailing game feel like that on your first swing, that takes skill and a lot of polish. Seriously though, great work on this, and y'all, hey listen, buy this game. It's worth it. Trust me, and it's only like $12. That's nothing. That's like the price of fast food. For 12 whole hours of this, how could you not take this deal? It is fascinating though, because after I finished this game, I did then go on to find the creator's YouTube channel while I was searching for the music. It's all uploaded on YouTube, which is real great, so it makes it easy to listen to and directly support the artist in the process. It's all great stuff, really. I do recommend checking it out, and I'll probably include a link to the playlist just in case you want to listen to any of it yourself. It's real good for working, you know? Over the process of writing this script, I also listened to a lot of these tracks again and again to get myself in the right headspace. But more than anything, the thing that particularly stuck out to me was listening to the dev talk about his own process of making the game. It's something that he spent much of his life wanting to do, but just felt unable to up until recently with modern development tools. And yeah, the process is pretty hard, and there's a certain level of dedication he has. I mentioned it before, but he personally recorded all the sound effects, took pictures of pretty much every texture in the game, and ended up just putting a shit ton of effort into this project because it clearly seems to have been a passion project. It's unclear if he'll work on another game, but if he does, man, I'm excited to check that out. Overall, on the Demenza'S gamer scale, a recent addition by our benevolent overlords of the channel, it gets a 12.25 out of 13. A solid title, even more so from a first-time developer. If the idea of a sick game about sick nasty little dudes in a sick nasty little world fighting all manner of wild animal and goblin sounds good to you, then this game is for you. Between its masterful moments of calm and beauty and its horrific, cruel jokes like this, which transform the game almost instantly into a Twitch shooter as you face off hordes of, well, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's a lot of spiders, guys. It's just a lot of spiders, alright? I used to not really worry too much about spiders, but now I might just murk them on sight, you know? But between these moments there lies something that's truly special. Heart. This game is packed full of it by an artist that took a lot of time to create something fun, something he was passionate about. I vibe with this game on an immeasurable level that I can't explain in words alone. However, I might be overlooking some of what people might call flaws, like say one of the hundreds of instant death pits you can carabine yourself off of and snap your neck or drown with the most horrible, loudest goddamn death sound ringing in your ears every time it happens. Why? Why did you make it so loud? It's so frighteningly loud. One could also say another flaw is the quick saving. Oh yeah, did I mention that at all? This game doesn't autosave for you. Now, to me, that means nothing. I think it's a pretty cool gimmick, until I forget to do it. It happened more than I want to admit. That said, though, I don't mind it at all. I actually like having the quick save. It's something that reminds me of games of old in the ye olden days, when you had to actually manually save to not get set back like 20 hours. To me, all the good stuff really outweighs the bad anyway, and so, honestly, I think it kicks ass regardless of what flaws it might have. I mean, you could say some of the backtracking gets repetitive and some of the environments do look a bit samey, but I honestly think it's cop shit to say that, and instead, I just want to say I enjoy it. So, the end of the line here is this, folks. This game fucks. Buy it. Oh, and if you stuck around this long, I just want you to know you're a real one. Now, if you could spread this around and share the word, it would be a pretty big help for me. If I break 1,000 subs, I even get my outside privileges back. Oh, wait, shit, I forgot to feed my editor. Dave, buddy, are you okay? Shit, not again.